Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. I feel like it feels like fall today here in Texas. I guess it depends on what part of the state you're in. Thank you so much for joining us this week for Built in Texas. My name is Jasmine Brand. I'm your host. I'm also the founder of Her Texas, which I will tell you a little bit about shortly. We have a fantastic guest. I say this every week, y'all, but it's the truth. We have incredible women here in the state, as you hear me as a broken record. But today we really have someone who I've admired for a long time. I also, she spills tea like no one else with the leadership nuggets and all kind of cool tweets. If you're not following her, we'll make sure you do that by the end of the show. So we come to you every Monday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time with the weekly bite-sized introduction to the women that have bold ideas, unique ideas, doing inspiring and impactful moves here in the state of Texas. It's really important in a state of this size to help you navigate, whether you've been here for a year or you've been here for 20 years, a state this size. There's 15 million of us and growing. So it's important for you to kind of know what women are doing things here as you build your own business, your own career, but also just for building our sisterhood and community here as well. So if you're tuning in, we broadcast live from Facebook or LinkedIn. If you're tuning in, feel free in the chat to let us know where you're tuning in from. It's been exciting. You know, Built in Texas started this past March, which feels like 20 years ago. But we have really started to really build a cool community of people. I should say women. There's like 3 or 4 guys that are cool and get it and support us and tune in. No, I'm just kidding. We actually have a lot of really amazing men that are part of our tribe here. But it's been amazing to see our support grow over the last couple months. And we've got some exciting stuff planned for next year. And even more, I mean, you can't get to the amount of women that are doing badass stuff here in the state. I would have to do this show for years. So we won't ever run out of incredible guests to introduce you to every week. So without further ado, make sure you let us know in the chats where you are, because I'd love to hear you tune in. What's been fun and cool is that we've had a lot of interest from people outside of the state, probably because Texas is always in the news, y'all. But it's been exciting to see the interest in the state as we kind of really share a modern view of what we believe the new Texas to be. So I want to tell you a little bit more about Her Texas, as well as the show we have coming up for you next as well. So today we've got the Kimberly O'Neil. I feel like I have to say the in front of it. She's going to be talking about leadership lessons. We could do a conversation for 5 hours, y'all. So this should be really fun. But first up, tonight, if you are available and if wherever you are in the state, we've got a networking event. It's called Network the State. One of the things that we are excited about introducing people to is other women around the state. Now, I don't like virtual events either, right? I know, or anything Zoom related, but this is what it works out really great, is because we've got, women around the state that are doing awesome stuff, but it's so hard to know who's doing what. And so once a month, the second Monday of the month, we invite women to come on, hop online, 6:30 to 8:30 to meet some new women. We've also got a special guest joining us tonight. Kasha is one of the premier social media experts here in the state. I know y'all were experiencing the outage last week. A lot of y'all don't only have the Instagram only accounts. This is for you tonight. She's going to explain why now is the time to diversify your social media platforms, but she's here to answer any questions you have too. So if you're an entrepreneur, you know, holidays are coming up. If you've got your own personal brand and you're wondering how much should I be posting? What should I be posting on my LinkedIn? Kasha will be here tonight to answer all of your questions. You guys can go to hertexas.co to get the details for that. It's free. Pop on while you're cooking, while you're doing cleaning, whatever. You get in where you fit in. You can stay the whole time, but it's a great opportunity for you to meet some new connections. I've always shared this with everyone that, you know, your next client, your next sale, your next co-founders here in the state of Texas. Like, don't let them fool you. We've got incredible women here, and I think it's a for us, by us opportunity that we've got incredible women to work with. We just don't always know what we're all doing. So tonight's a great opportunity, if you're free, to pop on by 6:30 to 8:30. We also, for the month of October, every Tuesday, have invited Tiffany Lindley. She pops in and shares some strategies to help you cope with the challenges that a lot of us have faced. Last week was Mental Illness Awareness Week, and we kicked it off with Tiffany sharing some tips. Last week was saying no with power, which I think was a huge topic. She'll be back again tomorrow, sharing even more nuggets to help you kind of cope and strategize with things when it comes to mental health and wellness. It's super important, especially right now. So a couple of facts for you all to talk about her Texas. So we're almost 30 million strong here in Texas. 50.4% of that population are women. And I always like to point that out because what that really means is that our voices, our dollars, our businesses matter. So it's really important for us to know the influence and impact that we have in the state. We've got close to 1,700 cities, which is just incredible to even think about that. The average age of residents here is about 35. And then we look at average earnings of someone who's got a bachelor's degree. For men, it's $70,139 compared to women at $49,671. That's a problem. I think it really kind of reflects the challenge that we have here in Texas, that Texas is an incredible place to grow business, lots of opportunity. It is a state that is built for creating really big companies. At the same time, we rank close to last when it comes to education. We also have a huge opportunity and for growth when it comes to diversity and inclusion. We've got a lot of challenges here too. And so I think this is really kind of the impetus for Her Texas, was because we need an organization now that recognizes that Texas has so many great things that are happening here, and that the strength of the state lies in the legacy of the women that live, work, and do business here. We know that the size of the state is both a challenge and an opportunity. And so our three kind of big missions for Her Texas is to help you as a woman, whether you've been here for a year or 20 years, navigate the state, connect and thrive with other women, and then build something epic here, whether it's your career or a business. One of the things I'm really excited about, we have not announced this yet, but it will be announced tomorrow. In this mission of navigating the state, we will be publishing curated guides. This is something that's not really being done before, but we want to help you not only find the women that you need to connect with here, but the resources and the tools you need to thrive. And so our first curated guide will be dropping December 6th, which I'm so excited about. It's called Where We Live. And it will be a guide to home and design by us, for us. We'll be introducing you to some of the diverse designers of the state, but most excitingly, we'll be connecting with some of the female realtors in this state too, which I think is so important. And this idea of women's empowerment, the best way we can do women's empowerment is to shop with each other, hire each other, buy from each other. But how do you know who's doing what in the state if a state's this size? And so December 6th, we will be introducing you to 100 female realtors around the state, which we're excited about. We'll also be connecting you to some of the diverse designers here too. And then most importantly, just giving you resources as you kind of build your space. What does it mean to be at home in Texas? That has changed over the last 2 years in this pandemic. But what does it mean to be at home? And now a lot of our homes have become workspaces for us too. So this curated guide, very excited. It's curated, it's digital, which means it'll be available 24/7. There hasn't been anything done like this, where from a statewide approach and with our reflection of diversity as well. Everything we do has to look like the way the state actually really is. Texas is a lot more diverse than you would believe. So Where We Live is our first guide. It's going to be all about home and living and thriving here. And it's going to introduce you to some of the incredible diverse women that have kind of made our homes really special. So very excited about that. You will hear me talk about this. You all, if you follow me, I will be wearing this out. And there will be an opportunity too for you to get involved as well. So stay tuned for that on our social channels. How to get involved. We've got a newsletter. We've got social channels. Any information, you can email us at hello@hertexas.co. If you want to really get involved, if you're looking to really kind of make an impact here in the state, connect with me directly. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love your ideas too. If you're tuning in from a smaller city and you're not sure how to get started, feel free to email me. Let's chat. I want to get you plugged in. And then, of course, join us at our monthly networking event. I'll be hosting that tonight, but it's my hope and dream that as we continue on with these virtual events, that we'll have other co-hosts, other women around the state that will be co-hosting. And Kasha, I'm excited to introduce you all to Kasha tonight, who is one of the top social media experts here in the state too. Finally, our info, you all, go to hertexas.co, Facebook, LinkedIn. We are not on TikTok, y'all. I don't think that's going to happen in 2021. We have an account there. That's just probably going to be a 2022 goal. But stay connected with us. We would love to get you plugged into the state if you just joined us here. And we do have quite a few people that just join us here in the state. So without further ado, I want to get our conversation going. Today is about leadership, but more importantly, it's just having a dialogue with some of the women that are actually doing stuff here in the state of Texas. I think it's so important. You know, one of the interesting things is we have women tune in from small cities, which has been so amazing and really honorable for me. And so they don't always get to meet women like Kimberly O'Neil. And so I'm thrilled for you all to get to meet her, go stalk her like I do on Twitter and laugh behind your computer. Because now she does give out really important, crucial information. Let me just clarify that, y'all. But she's also very funny on her Twitter. Kim, welcome to Built in Texas. How are you?
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? We don't have enough time, Jasmine.
Girl, we do not.
We do not have. So I'll just come back another day. So
you know what? We need to do an evening one, like I said, on your social with some wine, probably.
Yeah, probably so. Probably so, where I can just be my Twitter self.
That's right, because your Twitter, they crack me up. I sit there and laugh at some of the tweets. I'm like,
I don't look for a response. I just need to. It's a great place to just say some things and get it off my mind. The world needs to hear it. It's the truth, and it's just the truth, and we just need to share it. It's not. I don't do it or say it to be offensive, because sometimes it needs to be said because no one else wants to say it.
That's exactly right. Okay, so Trisha said, "Hey, girl, what's up?"
Hey, Trisha.
So I want to kind of get straight into it. So one of the things I thought when I was like, what topic can we talk about with Kim? Because there's so much to talk about. And I was on her Twitter feed and I was just going through it. And there's so many nuggets on there. And so I thought, okay, what great way for us to frame this conversation would be to talk about some leadership. Because I think leadership is intertwined in the life, in the work, in the business of all women that are here in the state of Texas, no matter what zip code you're in. And so I want to have this conversation. But first up, Kim, I want you to tell us a little bit about what you do and the work you do for those that maybe have not connected with you or don't know who you are.
Yeah, so I guess that's a long sordid tale, but I'm going to make it as short as I can. Which is probably why I am so vocal on Twitter. My name is Kimberly O'Neil. I am a seasoned and mentally retired senior government executive. I spent 20 years of the beginning part of my career in municipal governments across the country. I'm a former city manager. So I was used to not being able to say anything because anything that I said had the potential of impacting government. And then also somewhere in there, I also started working in the nonprofit sector as well. 11 years ago, I said, this is it. I moved to Texas in 2007. And 3.5 years later, I said, I'm done. I'm done with all of it. I'm tired of rules. I'm tired of looking at the inability to truly help community the way that I'm used to working in community. And I walked away from everything and started my own full-time consulting company. Really at that time, working in sports philanthropy, working with professional athletes, encouraging them to not start their own 501c3s and to utilize their brands to work with existing mid-sized nonprofit organizations. And I realized that there was a deficit for nonprofit startups. There was inadequate training. And so we just see so many nonprofit startups failing, not just because they shouldn't exist. Some of them shouldn't exist, but more so there wasn't adequate training for them. And I launched an incubator called Call Studio. So I'm the CEO of Giving Blueprint, which does provide consulting to community-based initiatives. But I also launched an initiative called Call Studio. So we provide professional development training to nonprofit startups. We used to do that in the form of an incubator, but we have since morphed and transitioned into virtual professional development training. And we provide that to organizations throughout the country. And I also have just a small little baby project that actually is simply for me called Style Givers, which is an online clothing boutique for women that launched earlier this year, well, mid-year 2021.
So you're just a little busy.
I'm a little busy, but it in a good way. Style Givers was because everything else that I do was for everybody else, right? It
Mhm.
was about service to others. My personal mantra is service to others as a part of life. And our involvement is not an option. And I truly
Mm.
believe that. I have been working for community since I was 13 years old. So I have been working, I'm almost 50. I have been working in and for community for over 35 years. So I don't know how to do anything anywhere else.
Mhm.
I needed to do something where at the end of the day, I didn't have to think about a project that was due the next day.
Yeah.
And so fashion and styling for me is a part of me. So I wanted to do something that was first about giving back to me, especially during this pandemic,
Mm.
but also giving back to other women that could have been in the same predicament as me, not getting dressed, getting wearing
Mhm.
leggings, putting on lipstick and a t-shirt or a regular shirt for Zoom, some dressing from the waist up and
Mm.
nothing else. And so that one was really and truly for me. So where people like, how do you find time to do it? Because for me, that is playtime. And I actually
Yes.
enjoy doing it. So as long as it continues to feel good, I'll continue to do it. And the moment that it doesn't feel good anymore, I'll stop doing it.
No, I love that. And I remember when you started dropping these looks on your Facebook, because I was basically had my PJs on while I was working. And I was like, no, she didn't. No, she didn't just drop that. I really need to go at least go get dressed up. I loved it. I was like, something's coming because Kim, she always looks cute, but I was like, something's coming because these are some looks like LEWKS. Now, there's a very important question I always ask in the beginning of the show, and I need to make sure I ask it for you. It's crucial for you to answer this. Um, Tex-Mex or sushi?
Tex-Mex. I don't like sushi at all.
No sushi at all. Okay, what's your fave Tex-Mex?
Um, I don't think I have a favorite. I think I can just go into the restaurant and figure anything out as
Okay.
long and quite honestly, that's the truth. Because if you ask me about any restaurant I want to go to, it's going to be a Tex-Mex restaurant, quite
Okay.
honestly. And when I go other places and people want to go to restaurants, I sit back and go, but there's not a Tex-Mex restaurant here. So like, what am I going to do? I'm like, pick something. I don't know. So Tex-Mex
Okay.
for sure.
Every time I ask this question, I immediately start getting hungry. And for me, it's quesadillas, some spinach quesadillas. I can also do some chili con carne, nachos. Like it's my favorite too. But I like sushi too, though. So I want to kick off with our first lesson that we talked about. So the theme of the show is 5 leadership lessons that can change your life. And these lessons, I pulled them from Kim's Twitter feed. Now, what's your Twitter? It's just Kim Online, right?
Everything just came online everywhere on social media.
Okay, cool. Just Kim Online. Okay, so our first one, stop waiting for permission. I thought this was a
Yes.
fantastic one to go on. Let's talk a little bit about that. How's that impacted your career, your life, your business?
You know, this came when I first moved to Texas. When the first day at my job in Fort Worth, I remember asking my boss a question and I remember her answer. And she said, they won't let us do that.
What?
And I said, who is they and who is us? There was no hesitation. And you know my personality. I said, who is they and who is us? Because I don't subscribe to that. And I knew then, and in the back of my mind, I said, what did I just get myself into?
Mm.
Because as someone who has worked and who had worked in government agencies where my responsibility was to go in and figure things out, offer solutions, and then they would fix it. That was my responsibility.
Mhm.
I couldn't understand working in an agency where a director was saying they won't let us do it when we
Who
were
was the
actually
they?
talking
Who was the they?
upper leadership, right?
Ah,
Won't
okay.
let us in terms of, and there were some other assumptions I thought as well because we were both Black women. So
That's what I was wondering.
I also made some assumptions about that because we were actually two of the youngest. We were a year apart. We were 35 and 36. We were two of the youngest leaders in the city leading a department. We actually had we had another young leader. So collectively, we were a young leadership team over a department. There were 2 Black women leading the department. And I think that was some of it as well. And this was her first senior leadership position. And clearly it wasn't mine. And so I think there was some of that. And I just couldn't understand when you when you accept a position, especially in government, your job is to do right by the people. But when I think about entrepreneurship and business, and just being in Texas and what I've observed in the entrepreneurial community, what I've observed is that women often wait for permission to move forward with their own idea, even when people aren't providing funding, coaching, mentorship, guidance. I always say we are waiting to be knighted to move forward with our own gifting. And so we cannot wait for permission to move forward with our own gifting, our own talents, our own goodness, because we will be waiting for forever while other people are moving forward with their ideas, sometimes our ideas, sometimes our people, sometimes our resources, sometimes our timing. And so we cannot wait for permission to move forward with the things that are designed for us. Sometimes we wait for permission because we are scared. Sometimes we are waiting for permission because we just want someone to validate that this idea is good. And no one can really do that for you. Entrepreneurship requires a different type of mindset. My parents have no idea what I do sometimes. My mother is, she's a true New York City civil servant. She had a job. She kept that job. She retired from that job. I have asked my mother, do you know what I do? And she goes, she'll smile and then she says, no. But my mother will forward whatever email I send her, but she really doesn't understand. And entrepreneurship is risky for her. And I get that. I truly get that. So what I can't do is wait for my mom to really kind of approve at 50 years old. I can't wait for that. And that may sometimes feel disappointing for me. But if that's what you're waiting for, your family, your friends, your peer group or anyone else, or sometimes even other entrepreneurs who may not understand the work that you're doing, that might not be the group or the people that you need to surround yourself with. And there are also, entrepreneurs who are not willing to take the same type of risk that you're willing to take.
Right.
And you have to be careful with who you surround yourself with, because you'll never move forward. And sometimes you may never realize either your dream or your goals, period, or you'll never realize the level that you can get to because you're too busy holding back because you're waiting for other people who will never, ever co-sign what you're trying to do.
I think, first of all, we could just talk about this topic.
Okay.
It's huge. And I think we're always waiting. And I don't know if it's just even in business, though. It's like we're constantly waiting. And I've always believed, too, that we have everything we need right now. It's never going to be really perfect. And I know a lot of us struggle. I have with the whole perfectionism. This needs before I can launch it, or this before I can put myself out there. It's like it's never going to be perfect. Like we have everything we need. And I always say this to specifically women living in Texas. There are women here who have your back and want you to be successful. I will be a broken record saying that because this state sometimes can feel very lonely if you just moved here. And so it's important, or if you've been here for a long time and it's hard finding kind of your tribe, there are women that want to have your back. Now I want to move to the next ones. I think these are kind of complementary about sharing your narrative matters. Let's talk about that. And hey, Mika, thanks so much for joining us, right? She's already faxed. Big time. Let's talk about that as we talk. So stop asking for permission, but let's talk about why it's important for women specifically to share your narrative. Why does that matter? And y'all, I pulled these from Kim's tweets. Okay, just Kim online. Literally, it's 50 million nuggets on there. So make sure you follow and connect with her. Why is it important to share your narrative?
Nobody's going to tell my story but me. No one will ever tell my story but me. I am so direct in how I present myself. If someone shares something about me and you don't think it sounds like me, they're lying. Because I am so direct. So if something sounds a little bit off, and go, Kim O'Neil would never share that. Trust and believe, Kim O'Neil would never share that.
Right.
Right? We have to be okay with sharing our narrative. And let me tell you something. A few weeks ago, I shared something on social media, and it opened the door for young women to send me DMs and thank me for creating a safe space for them to share their personal comparable experiences simply in my DMs. And it bothered me so much that in 2021, that young women are still afraid to share what's happening to them in the workspace, in the entrepreneurial community. And as an older woman, because even though I don't want to admit that sometimes I am, as an older woman, not sharing my narrative or keeping quiet about some things means that I have left the door open for younger women to believe that it is okay for those things to happen to them, and it is not. And that for me is my responsibility.
Yes.
I don't care about race. I don't care about religion. When it comes to being a woman and when it comes to equity, some of the things that continue to happen to women are happening because we are not making it so comfortable for women to stand up. And sometimes it's because of tragedy and the trauma associated with things that have happened to some of us that are older. And I get that part. But for some of us that are comfortable in sharing narrative, and I don't care how severe or not the situations are, when we are comfortable, I think it is important for us to begin having these conversations so that younger women feel empowered to at least show up and share what is happening to them so we can let them know, no, that's not normal. And that person doesn't have that kind of power. And no. I need for you to go and begin to have these conversations and tell them where they can go. Sometimes people don't even know where they can go to complain, go for support, go for additional resources, go to file a report. And I'm not just talking about sexual harassment.
Right.
Honestly, I'm not. That's actually a small part of what I'm talking about. Sometimes the things that I'm talking about are things that people take for granted. And sometimes these are the things that hold women back from asking for permission or waiting for permission, or thinking that they have to wait for permission to move their businesses forward. So it is important that we're sharing and owning our own narratives. When I close my eyes, when my day is done, nobody's going to tell my story because I've already told it. I've told what needs to be told in my own way. So anybody that chooses to share anything after that, people that know me knows that that didn't happen that way. And if you do believe it, it's just because you want to gossip anyway.
Right. I think it's such a huge point too. And, we talk about our younger sisters kind of out there who are afraid to speak up. There's so many of women though who are older who have just kind of been conditioned to not speak up. And I have to do a movie quote, a reference with Tina Turner. One of the things in that movie when she basically told Ike, and I know some of y'all youngins haven't seen what love got to do with it, so I will put the link in here. But one of the things she said in the courtroom was, she's like, you can have everything, but I want to keep my name. That name, your voice. There's so many women who have come before us that have put in so much work and have gone through so much for us to have our voice. Your voice is so important. I think this is why talking about the numbers of the women that are here in the state, that our voices matter, and your voice matter, your story matters, flaws and all. And so I think it's so important, and it really kind of makes you who you are as well. And I think sharing your narrative is you don't really have a choice to do it, because if you don't do it, someone else will do it. I know most women who have paved the way, been in a leadership role, have dealt with other people trying to tell your narrative. And all you have at the end of the day is your name and your story and what that means to you. Because people will say, all sorts of stuff. I'm sure you've had to deal with that.
Yeah, that's why my TED talk was your voice is your currency. Your
Mhm.
voice is the most expensive thing that you have. And the two things that I will argue and fight for, my name and my money. Those are the two things.
Mhm.
You can have everything else.
Yes.
My reputation, and it's based on my name. At this particular point, I make money based on my name and my
Mhm.
reputation. And so if you are out there altering my name and who I am because of some false narrative, it's not going to happen. And I will battle for it. And I'm
You
okay
should be.
with doing that, right? Because if you alter how I make my living because of whatever it is that you want to say, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. If I'm wrong, I will own it and I will apologize for it. But it's very rare that I find myself in those situations because I am direct. I am blunt. But if I'm wrong, I always say I'm going to be strong and wrong. And I'm going to say, you know what? You are right about that. You're
Yes.
right. I didn't see it that way. You're right about that. I can own that. I can swallow that. Right. But I can't own a narrative that's untrue about me, right? Because I am so blunt, I have to sit in the bluntness of saying they are absolutely right about that because I can't be right all the time. That I
Mhm.
have to accept that when there's an opportunity for me to learn and hear something differently, that I have to be comfortable in that part as well, because that is being a good student of leadership.
Yes, agree with that so much. I want to kind of switch gears a little bit. So we have that tune in quite a bit of women that are established female founders, but all that are brand new to leading others and to hiring and starting businesses. So our next one is, I think, can be applicable to nonprofits or for profits. This the you can't want dedicated people if you're not committed to paying them something meaningful. And I remember you went through a whole series of this on your Twitter, and it's this whole idea of cycle poverty. How do we get out of this? Would love to hear your thoughts specifically because you've got this extensive leadership in nonprofit, but just in general, because I think a lot of us are just now brand new business owners, still just trying to figure it out. And it's so important to build a strong foundation. But how do you build a strong foundation for a business or leadership when you haven't been guided and you've not gotten the mentorship? So many women, and in my journey, some of my best leaders and mentors have been men. Some of my most challenging have been women. And I don't think it's because they necessarily hated me or hated women. I don't know if they got the guidance on how to lead others. So can you talk about this when and reflecting of paying people meaningful, but bigger picture though, it really comes to how do we lead forward in a good, positive way?
You know, there was a series, and that's not where this comment came from when I did it. This was based on a conversation that I had. But there was a series on social media, a big one, I think it was on LinkedIn, about internships that started
Mhm.
it.
Mm.
But when we're building businesses and we may not have the financial capital, and so we start talking about internships, right? And number one, we don't even understand the legal requirements around internships. Internships are not to help us build businesses. Internships are about the intern and
Yes.
the opportunity, right? And we don't realize that if an intern is smart enough and they're doing something and they're not getting a tangible benefit and they take you to court, that you might end up paying them
Mm.
anyway, right? And so we have to really think about that. We want to build businesses, but we're not willing to pay people to help us build businesses, but we want people to pay for our services and
Mm.
products. What are we really saying? I don't want to pay for the human capital to help me build my business, but I want you to pay me for what I'm producing because what I'm producing has value. We have to really sit and think about that. And we cannot go with that old school mentality of it was good enough for me back
Mm.
then with interns. So it's good enough for now. Well, actually, it wasn't good enough for us back then. We just didn't have any options, just like it wasn't good enough for women back then. I can tell horror stories of what it was
Oh,
like as a young woman, starting my career in the 90s and what I couldn't wear to work. It wasn't good enough
for
for
the
us,
interns, it was slave
right?
labor when I was interning.
Right. It wasn't good enough for us back then. And when
Mhm.
we think about what these arguments over minimum wage, I made $4.25 an hour in 1988, and minimum wage, right? Federal is 7.25 now. Think about that.
Mm.
Think about, and I compare that to, think about what congressional members made at the same time. And there's been a huge difference in what they made then versus what they make now. And so, and you think about what housing costs are. If you want good people, I've worked with people in for-profit and nonprofits, and I hear people say they love working for me. When it comes to people loving you, loving working for you, but loving taking care of their family, what they love the most is going to be loving taking care of their family. And they can love working for you. But if I have to work 2 or 3 jobs versus working one good job, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to work one good job because I honestly want to be with my family. I don't want to have to work. I don't want to have to sacrifice time when I could just get one good job and take care of my family. And you have to start thinking about that. I have had people tell me, well, I'm thinking about my clients and I don't want to charge too much. Honestly, I've had to tell people, if you charge not enough, some people are not going to even buy from you because they're going to think your product's too cheap. Right? So, as an entrepreneur, we have to start thinking about what we're even charging for our how we're pricing our products and our services. And if we want the right talent who brings the right skill sets to the table, we have to figure out what that is and then roll that into the cost for our products and services so that we can retain the talent, because no one wants to train people over and over and over again. I look at my own business, I have a starting rate for everybody. And I don't go below it. I don't care who you are, intern, I don't care. There is a starting rate for everybody, and it's well above $15 an hour because I don't want part-time or full-time. I don't want anybody thinking about having to do one thing for me and then having to do another thing for someone else. I don't want people to have to think about that, because you know what that means for me? That possibly they're thinking about, I might have to leave her and go do something else. I can't afford that as a small business owner. I can't.
What would you advise then to the woman or man that's tuned in that is in that situation where they are needing additional support, but maybe they're listening to this conversation and determining, okay, I can't really afford to pay the support at what they should be paid. What's your advice to them?
Can I be honest? This is the same thing I say to the nonprofit sector. Can you really evaluate whether or not you need to be in business? Right? Because sometimes I think we run this rat race, because if you can't afford to pay people, then I'm also thinking, can you afford to pay yourself? Because if you're struggling to pay people, you're either not paying yourself, not paying yourself enough, or you're paying yourself a lot and you're treating people wrong. There's something that's not happening that's right. And if one, some, or all of those things are happening, then as a business owner, you need to revisit some things, right? You can't love this whole hustle mentality. It's tiring in the entrepreneurial, like we just gonna hustle this, like sometimes we just this meme that's going around, sometimes we just need to get started without a business plan. I mean, fine, yes, some of us do need to do that, but this whole hustle, spend your money, going broke, taking it out your family, everybody's going poor, you're losing out. There are smarter ways to do it, going to find resources, there are plenty of free resources. Sometimes we don't understand the numbers because we never sat down to do a budget. Sometimes we don't understand the numbers or what it could take. People say, well, I can't afford to do it. Well, we never sat down to understand what human capital could really cost for our organization. We didn't even compare. We don't even know how much that could really cost or what the going rate is for those types of opportunities in our industries. We've not done our homework. People are saying that they can't afford it simply because they don't know what it costs. And that's what I find more so than anything. People don't want to pay for it. People haven't done their homework, and they stay in that place because they want to make sure their bottom line stays at a certain place. But their bottom line is always going to go up and down because they're not retaining the right type of talent, because they've not hired the right type of talent for their actual business.
I mean, I think this is a massive challenge and a problem I see here with so many of us starting businesses at a prolific rate. Texas ranks really high for women, specifically founders of color starting businesses here. But by year 3, most of us have not built any traction. We've not really brought any revenue, and quite a bit of us, and I think the percentage was 90% of us are solopreneurs, which in some businesses I think that works. But for most businesses to succeed, you have to have help and support. You've got to actually hire staff. And I think it comes to your point of a lot of us don't know. I want to go to the next point because I think this is kind of intertwined with this too, of this idea of you've got to run a business on purpose and with purpose, which I think is kind of tied in this conversation. We're starting companies. We're excited about what that means. You know, this is Hispanic Heritage Month, and one of the things we talked about in a previous show was Latinas right now are number one when it comes to starting businesses. When it comes to Hispanic individuals starting business, women over men, hands down. A lot of that is because they don't have the opportunities. There's still a massive gender wage gap. Latinas are impacted by it the most. They also were hit the hardest by the pandemic too. So we're starting these businesses. We're excited about what this freedom could mean, this independence. A lot of us have never had that before. This idea of having a side hustle, but then actually thinking about building an actual business, not just starting to hustle, not just doing something, grinding or whatever, but building something with purpose. What did you mean by that when we talk about building a business with purpose and with purpose?
Yeah, so Pete, it's just that.
Oh wait, I'm sorry, I gotta let you know what Trisha just said. And I agree with you, girl. This is literally, she said, listen, this year has been for the books. I agree with you. And I've been in business now for a bazillion years, and it's been challenging.
Yeah. And it's always, and your point of the hustle, it's this hustle mentality. It's, I'm a one-up and it's team no sleep, all of these unhealthy ways of building a business. And it has to be you have to know why you're building a business. It has to be something that works for you. And I'm not talking about, as most of my work is around the nonprofit sector. So I'm not talking about like purpose-built kind of businesses.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just talking about, you have to be intentional about building your business, right? You have to sit down and plan your business. You may not have had a traditional business plan in the beginning, but if you are not setting goals quarterly, annually, like you should not be in a business of every day, like working in real time and just working on tasks. Like there should be some sort of objectives at the end of this particular quarter, at the end of this year. This is what I hope to achieve. And so then all you're doing is figuring out the tasks to get to that point. But if every day it feels like you're putting out fires, if every day you're just responding to email, if every day you're just thinking about what you're going to post on social media, but there's no rhyme or reason to why you're posting on social media except to have pretty pictures, then what's the point? What's the purpose? It's not on purpose and it's not with purpose. There's nothing that you're doing. It's just sometimes we're just trying to emulate what we see other people doing. And when we are not gaining traction and we're not gaining results, we don't know what that's for, why we're doing it. And doggone it, invest in yourself. Even if you can't pay for a coach, even if you've had some traction, you're making some money. Every leader needs a leader. Invest in yourself. If the leader that you have is not working for you, if you've never had a business coach, go on and invest in yourself. And if financially you can't afford to do it, do some of the old school small business development center, SCORE. Those are still some amazing places to go to. Look at some of these the business grants that come along with business resources. Look at some of those. Invest in yourself from a professional development perspective. Stop thinking as soon as you get some money in the bank, you have arrived, because growing a business is an ever developing process. And if you think because I finally hit 6 figures, my business is now going to hit $1 million. If you've never hit $1 million, then you don't know what it takes to hit $1 million. You know what it takes to hit 6 figures, and you can rinse and repeat that, but you don't know what it takes to hit a million. You actually don't know what it takes to hit a 500,000. So there has to be a process that you know how to rinse and repeat things, but that you know how to scale. And you have to be very intentional about that particular process. And then you have to be very intentional in saying, this doesn't work for me anymore, or this doesn't work at all. And I need to abandon this. And I can't be married to this particular part of my business. And I won't let this go because your ego won't let it go. And it really is not serving you a purpose other than I put it on paper. So therefore I'm going to do it.
No, I think it's huge. And I think what a lot of it, what you're saying is we got to get out of our own way sometimes. Sometimes we're really blocking a lot of the blessings and the gifts that we have. They're blocking a lot of it.
And I think as women, we get too emotional, and it's who we are, right? And I don't want to discount that, because I think that's the beauty sometimes in who we are in building businesses and nurturing our businesses. So I don't want to discount that at all. I actually love that about us. But sometimes that can get in the way, right? If we don't know when to nip that, right? So that can be a blessing for us in building businesses, but sometimes that can actually really get in the way. And we just have to know when enough is enough. And listen, as a best business buddy, we have women that are business owners around us. We should be able to have those conversations. My friends that are in business know that I'm going to be the one to say, I mean, why are you still doing that? Like, for real, why are you still doing that? I mean, why are you posting that on social media? Stop posting other people's stuff on social media. I don't see you posting your stuff. Stop posting. Like, I have those conversations. It's not to be insulting. I'm saying it because I want you to shine. Stop putting that shine on other people. I know you have the heart because you're a woman. I know why you're doing it, but right now you need to get the cash.
It's so true. It goes back to this: stop waiting for permission, stop waiting, stop pausing. So we're almost out of time. We got one final, although we could go on forever. We've got one final leadership lesson. But before we get to the last one, Kim, I want to make sure we plug how do people stay in contact with you? What's next for you, for Cost Studio, for Style Givers? Tell us a little bit about what's next and how people can connect with you.
Yeah, so stylegivers.com, we actually have an October drop. So we launched for plus size women, but women small to extra large wouldn't stay out of my DMs, would not stay out of my DMs. So there are a few things for small to extra large in the October drop. We'll be dropping within the next week. So you can go to stylegivers.com, add your name to our email list, so you'll get the information when we drop. So I'm really excited about the October collection. We're not one of those 24-hour, 7 days a week. We're dropping something all the time. We're very intentional about our drops. Cost Studio will be having, so we do have some free training, and then we'll have a curated paid training for nonprofit startups. We'll have a training coming up in 2 weeks, of free boot camp, things that you need to know before you start a nonprofit. So we'll have 2 boot camps coming up at the end of October, and then November we'll start a 6-week paid training course where I'll take you through a roadmap to create an actual document that'll help you to solidify whether or not you need to move forward with a nonprofit organization. You can sign up for that through coststudio.co. You'll get all of the information on how to sign up for the boot camp and then the subsequent class as well.
Okay,
so
perfect.
Those are the next 2 things coming up. And then just Kim online everywhere on social media. If you just follow me, you'll get all of the information for everything anyway.
Great. And we'll, of course, send all this out for you all, too, because I know some of us have just tuned in, or if you haven't gotten to see this whole episode, we always send out this replay of everything on Wednesday. So don't worry if you think you missed out. So final lesson, we only have 2 minutes left. So final lesson, I want to leave on this note. And then we always ask a final question for everyone that's on. If you can tell us about a Texas woman, she can be a celebrity, someone from real life. She can be present. She can be from the past, no longer here, someone that inspires you. So last tip, have a way to connect with people outside of social media. We saw this big time last week. So we'd love your final thoughts on that. And then a Texas woman that inspires you.
How to connect outside of social media: own your own list. Just own. As an entrepreneur, it's nice to be on social media, but own your own list. I don't care, ConvertKit, MailChimp, whatever. Own your own list. That should be the point of entry, and then funnel and utilize social media as an add-on. But last week, I loved getting all of the email, even though I felt like, oh gosh, I got to delete all this stuff. But I loved seeing all of the email come out, like I got a sale going on, free shipping, and all of these things,
Yeah.
because what it said is people were letting you know, although we're off social media in terms of Facebook and Instagram, but we're still here, we're still present. So make sure that you are not limiting your presence to social media because you don't own that. So that's
Yeah.
number one. And a woman that inspires me, and she knows it because I just told her yesterday via text, I love and adore you, Dr. Francois Booker Drew,
Oh, of
of
course.
the State Fair, Vice President of Community Affairs at the State Fair of Texas. For years, people would say, do you know her? And I was like, I don't know her. People keep asking, do you know her? And when I met her instantly, I said, I now
Mm,
know why people asked
mm,
if I knew you. And like from that moment on, it was just like fangirl. And she is just one of, because she's so committed to community, it's someone that I can instantly identify with. That she is true to community, she is driven, and she, whatever she says she's going to do, she does just that. And that is someone that I can respect. And there aren't many people that I will say that about, but for her, without a shadow of a doubt, with, she can ask me, if she asks me something or tells me I need to go talk to somebody, I don't even ask why. And
mhm.
there is probably very few people, probably 5 people max in the country, that if they tell me to go talk to somebody, I'll go and do it, and I won't ask any questions. I'll just say, Francois said I should talk to you, and then I'll figure out why once I start talking to her.
No, she's incredible. I think a lot of us fangirl secretly
Yeah.
over her for sure. Anything she puts out, I'm constantly reading. So she's incredible. She to me is so reflective of really what we call the new Texas here. It's basically who you think's here. And I always like to remind everyone about this too, because so many women, we have so many transplants here. And I think this is part of this new Texas is that we've just got, there's a certain energy and vibe here because of the mix of women that have come in from everywhere that have brought their stories, their lives. I know you're from New York originally, Kim, so have brought their stories here. And first of all, I think represents, I think what is happening here. She's making things happen. She's got impact. She cares about the community. She cares about women. So I love her choice too. So we're out of time. As always, this goes by so fast. Kimberly O'Neil, thank you so much for
You're
joining us
welcome.
here. I mean, you could do a whole masterclass on this topic too for not for profits. I think maybe
Yeah.
we'll talk about
I
that.
just have to say this in like 5 seconds. I just want to say thank you to you, because people need to know what you've done for this entire entrepreneurial community. I have been in this community for over a decade, and you have too. And I
Mhm.
don't think you get your flowers. And you need them. You talk about me, but you need them. And I can't end this. I know you're out of time, but I can't end without saying thank you to you. And I want people to know that you have been here every step of the way. And I don't think you get enough kudos for what you've done, in creating not just for women, but for the entire entrepreneurial community. And I'm glad to see that you're doing this for women across the state. So I'm going to say thank you to you for what you're doing right now. And I wish you nothing but immense blessings for what you're doing through Her Texas.
Thank you, Kimberly. Well, first of all, you've always had my back, always publicly, privately. So always have had that. So I really thankful for that because a lot of us are just doing the work here, just trying to make things happen. But it's important for us to recognize each other. So I appreciate that because it's been a long 10 years. It's been an amazing 10 years, but it's been a long 10 years
Yes,
for sure.
ma'am.
We talk about that. But I used to tell my mom, I was like, Mom, I really am tired. I'm over people. I'm over this. She goes, if not you, who will? And I'll never forget, she told me that before she passed away. She said that to me actually repeatedly. And so it's something that sticks with me too, because if not us, who will, right? We've got to
Yes.
start thinking about who's before us and who's after us. So
Yes.
without that, further ado, thank you all for joining us. We have another show next week, a really up and coming hot chef, female chef that I can't wait to introduce you to. And then that's our last show for the month, y'all, because Scorpio season starts on October 24th, which is my birthday. So we won't have a show that day. We'll be back on November 1st. So I hope you will tune in with us next week for this incredible chef. Thank you all for tuning in for the support for Her Texas. And I can't wait to see you next week. Talk to you soon.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.